Hello, welcome to Tiny Glade. I've been following this game ever since they released the reveal trailer, and I really wanted to play it, and finally they released the demo version on Steam, so you can actually play it now. It's a very nice, relaxing game where there really is no goal, no objective. You can just build whatever you want. And I wanted to record something for the channel with this game, but the problem is I'm not a very creative person. I tend to struggle with things that are creative, and this game is pretty much, it's all about creativity. So in order to have some kind of a guidance for myself, I decided that I would try to replicate some of the real life or fictional castles, just to have something as a reference that I could, try to mimic. But I wanted to start with something simple in order to get used to the controls in the game and various building techniques. So I remembered I watched this video on YouTube which was about this family in Greece who basically purchased an old half-ruined tower and they restored it and they live in it. And I thought it was a cool video. And so the structure itself was not particularly complicated, it was pretty much just a tower with a couple of adjacent structures. So I thought it was a perfect choice for the first castle in Tiny Glade, something that's simple and can be easily repeated. So this is what I'm going to be building today. I already have a structure here which I used to practice, just to understand the controls, but I'm gonna start all over. So I'm starting by completely removing the starting walls and the road, and then I wanted to build the castle on somewhat of an elevated terrain, but this is my first time using the terrain tools, so I didn't really like it, and I think I ended up smoothing the terrain later. So I begin by placing the standard square or rectangular building, which you can then turn into a tower by lowering the roof. Then I simply attach another square building and do the same thing. I'm gonna keep referencing the original video every now and again. By the way, I'm gonna leave the link in the description if you wanna check it out. I think it's a cool video. At this point I decided to get rid of the terrain, and now I'm adding another part of the structure which in the video appears to be ruined and not completely livable. We're going to make it look like it's been abandoned a bit later. By the way, these little castles, they're not supposed to be perfectly historically accurate or anything like that, and the build is supposed to resemble the historical building, not to be a perfect recreation of it. So here I actually noticed that the original building doesn't have any crenellations really on any of its parts, but specifically this lower section here. And so I wanted to use this technique where you place another square building kind of within your first one, and that should remove crenellations. But I kept playing with it and I just didn't manage to make it so it removes the crenellations on the part that I want, but doesn't affect the parts that I don't want. So then I moved into trying to build this little circular shape or semicircular shape that you can see in the original building. But I really struggle with all of these smooth lines and circles, so I kind of decided to leave it as is for now. Here I started adding some doors and windows. I keep referencing the original footage to make sure I'm kind of not missing anything. And now I start building this staircase or stairway that leads up to the tower, at least its lower portion over here. And in this game, if your square building is low enough and you move your road, your path towards it, it should turn into a staircase. But it's very low. As soon as you move it a little bit higher, or as soon as you make it a little bit taller, the stair is going to disappear and it's going to turn into a door. And so I thought I should just use a couple of these square buildings to sort of imitate the stairs once I cannot move it any higher. I cannot raise it any higher. So I'm just fiddling with this stuff. It is kind of complicated to make the stairs appear in exactly the way you want, so I'm just fiddling with this, and then I realized that I really need to add the third part to this staircase, the third square building, so then the steps are not as tall. And this is the part that's kind of frustrating, is trying to make the stairs appear at the angle you want. For some reason I tried to make it like cornered, but eventually I think I got it. Here I wanted to add some walls to serve as this sort of balustrade part for the lower portion of the stairs. And before cutting the wall into pieces, I decided to repaint the whole thing. I thought that this stone kind of a pattern better reflects the original tower that this is based upon. Also, I really liked this little light that you can see next to your in-game cursor. I thought it was a really cool touch. Over here, right next to the staircase, the original building has like another door, like an entrance to a cellar or something. You can actually see that in the video. And I wanted to add a door over there, but it kept interacting with the other square buildings that are kind of within that one, so I had to move it around a little bit. and then I had to adjust the other buildings accordingly. I noticed that the terrain here is kind of uneven, so I thought maybe I could fix this, but I think it didn't really work out in the end, so I kind of left it alone. For some reason that made the door disappear. So I was referencing back to the video to see where I should place these windows, and I have noticed that the original building has this kind of a balcony sticking out, and I really wanted to add a suggestion of that in the game. Unfortunately, there is a lower limit on how small you can make your square building, which is essentially what the balcony is in the game. It's just a square building that's attached to the main tower with a little bit of overhang. So the balcony turned out to be quite much larger than it really should be, but I really wanted to keep it as a representation of the original thing. And here I'm checking the windows on the other side of the tower. Doing some minor adjustments here. So now I wanted to finish this kind of a ruined part of the tower that wasn't restored yet. So I added a door and a window here, and then just used the eraser tool to collapse part of the structure, which basically turns it into a wall. I wanted to place maybe a building inside, so it could have a ceiling, but I didn't like how it looked like. So I just decided to go without a ceiling. So I just basically cut the walls down a little bit. But then I realized that there should be a wall over here, because it doesn't look really well without it, so I basically reversed the whole process and adjusted the building, or at least this portion of it, and then I collapsed it again, and then I started cutting the walls all over again. But eventually I was satisfied with the result. I was trying to make sure that the walls are uneven, parts of it are taller, parts are shorter. You can actually see the same thing in the original building. I think it looked okay in the end. Pet the sheep. So at this point I'm pretty much satisfied with the build, and I just wanted to add maybe a few final touches here and there. So I decided to make something sort of like a garden here in the free area of the build. Now I finally went back to this circular shape to make it slightly better. Because I didn't like how it looked like in the beginning. I thought maybe it would make sense to have like a door over here, but it would interfere with the other square buildings, and I just didn't want to mess with them and move them around. I also wanted to make a suggestion of a wall inside to sort of indicate that there was multiple rooms or chambers inside of this building when it wasn't ruined. It didn't really work that well, so I just added just one piece of wall, and that was kind of enough. Then I went around and painted certain parts of the wall in a slightly different color to make it look more uneven. Here I'm making small changes to the garden, making the paths more pronounced, and restoring the door and the window, which keep disappearing for some reason. At this point, these are really just some minor adjustments in the end. Here I had one sheep who just seemed to be stuck and wasn't moving, so I decided to free her by removing the flowers in which she was stuck. Or maybe the sheep is just supposed to stay there. Maybe they just enjoy looking at flowers and she wasn't stuck at all. So then I realized that my structure doesn't have any lights on it, that I totally forgot about them when I finished the recording, so I went back to add the lights, but then I realized that I didn't record that part. So I started the recording and used the backwards tool to go back before I placed all the lights, and then I used the forward tool to then sort of replay the way I was placing them, so you could see it on the footage. And then I played around with the photo mode a little bit more, just to see how my structure would look like with all the lights during the night. And I think I'm satisfied with the result overall. So this is it. I enjoyed building this. I enjoyed the game overall, and I plan to continue with some other castles. Let me know what you think about this, and if you have any recommendations or suggestions about how to make these videos better. Any feedback is going to be appreciated. So, thank you for watching this part, and I guess I'll see you in the next one.